Chapter 2684. As for the odds of Lu Ming's victory, they directly ignored it. Previously, when the burly man bet on Lu Ming's victory, the odds were 1 to 50. Now that Lu Ming's odds were 1 to 1, who would still bet on him? Wait, if we bet on you and you're killed by Dongfang Hao, who are we going to get the divine crystals from? That's right, if you're killed by Dongfang Hao, all the treasures on you will become his spoils of war. Who are we going to get them from? Many people shouted. Indeed, if Lu Ming died in battle, they would not be able to get the divine crystals that they had bet, including the interest. How about this? I'll go find the elder of the enforcement hall as a witness and hand over all the divine crystals to him. If I die in battle, you can go to the elder of the enforcement hall to collect the divine crystals. Lu Ming said, Find the elder of the enforcement hall as a witness? Who do you think you are? You think you can invite the elder of the enforcement hall? Don't brag without a draft. Many people despised him. The elder of the enforcement hall was high and mighty. How could a new outer disciple like Lu Ming invite him? Whether I can or not, we'll know in a while. Wait for me here. I'll be back soon. After saying that, Lu Ming soared into the air and headed toward the enforcement hall. Whether it was the outer or inner disciple area, there was an enforcement hall. The enforcement hall was responsible for enforcing the law and had great authority. Lu Ming really went to invite the elder of the enforcement hall. Can he really do it? How is that possible? If he can invite the elder, I can also invite the sect leader. Do you believe it? Whether it's true or not, let's wait. It won't take long anyway. The crowd discussed and waited. Moreover, the news of Lu Ming being the banker also spread. More outer disciples gathered in this area. Even some deacons and elders of the outer court were attracted to the scene. Very soon, a huge palace appeared in front of Lu Ming. This was the outer sect law enforcement hall. Stop! 2 young men blocked Lu Ming's path at the entrance of the enforcement hall. I would like to meet the elders of the law enforcement hall. Lu Ming said, You're just a level 4 ethereal god. You want to see the elders of the disciplinary hall? What a joke. Get the hell out of here. A young man waved his hand with a bad attitude. Lu Ming frowned. He was clear that those who held positions in the law enforcement hall were not outer sect disciples, but inner sect disciples. Their cultivation was all above true God realm. Otherwise, how could they suppress so many outer sect disciples? It was normal for these people to look down on him. The 2 of you, just go and inform them. Lu Ming said, neither servile nor overbearing. Report? Who do you think you are? Why should we report? It was still the same young man who sneered coldly. The people from the law enforcement hall had a lot of power. Most of the outer disciples would tremble when they saw them, but Lu Ming was calm when he saw them. This made them a little unhappy. Is this enough? Lu Ming said coldly as he took out the gold token. It's useless no matter what. What? Gold? Gold token? The young man was arrogant at first, but when he saw the gold token, he almost bit his tongue and his eyeballs almost popped out. Now, go and inform them. Lu Ming said with a sullen face. Yes, yes, yes. I was blind just now. Young master, I hope you won't stoop down to my level. The young man who scolded Lu Ming just now was sweating profusely. He nodded and bowed in fear. He was clear that those who had the gold token must have a great background. They were not people he could offend. He hated that he could not slap his own mouth. He did not know how Lu Ming would deal with him. Go and inform them. Lu Ming said coldly. Yes, yes, please wait a moment. The young man nodded and bowed, then ran in to inform the elders. Not long after, 3 old men in black robes with gold embroidered on them followed the young man out. These 3 old men were the outer sect elders of the law enforcement hall. Black robes inlaid with gold were their symbol. Little brother, do you really have the gold token? One of the elders looked at Lu Ming. That's right. Lu Ming took out the gold token again. It's really the gold token. The 3 old men looked at each other and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. Little brother, why are you looking for us? One of the elders said with a pleasant expression. As elders of the law enforcement hall, they knew a lot more inside information. They knew that only the sect master and a few supreme elders of the Kongxian school had the gold token. Lu Ming was young and his cultivation was not high, but he had the gold token. Obviously, he had a special relationship with the sect master or a few supreme elders. Naturally, they had to curry favor with him. Seniors, it's like this. Lu Ming told them that he wanted to set up a bet and asked them to be witnesses. Oh, it's a small matter. We'll go with you. Yes, it's a small matter. The elders were full of smiles. The eyelids of the two young men guarding the gate twitched. They dared to swear to God that if anyone else dared to ask the three elders of the law enforcement hall to be witnesses, they would definitely slap them to death. However, they were not displeased with Lu Ming at all because of the gold token. Thank you for your trouble, seniors. Lu Ming clasped his fists. It's a small matter, a small matter. The few elders of the law enforcement hall smiled amiably. They then flew toward the outer sect area with Lu Ming. In the outer court area, more and more people gathered around the life and death arena. Huang Wu, Huang Wan, Dongfang Hao, and the others also came nearby. He's here. Lu Ming is here. Suddenly, someone shouted. Everyone looked in the same direction. Then, everyone's eyes widened. There were three elders behind Lu Ming. They were dressed in black robes with gold inlays. The outer sect disciples were all too familiar with them. They were the elders of the outer sect law enforcement hall whom the outer sect disciples would turn pale at the mention of. Oh my God! Are my eyes playing tricks on me? Are those really the elders of the law enforcement hall? And there are three of them together? What the F asterisk CK? Your eyes are not playing tricks on you. I saw it too. Oh my God! Where did this kid come from? He actually managed to invite the elders of the law enforcement hall. Those who were certain that it was impossible for Lu Ming to invite the elders from the law enforcement hall felt as though their throats were blocked by a ball of dog fur. Their faces were flushed red. This kid, Huang Wan, Huang Wu, and the others narrowed their eyes. They could not help but guess that Lu Ming had some kind of background. Then, they shook their heads. They had inquired about Lu Ming's background. He was just an outer court disciple who had just joined the sect. His talent was good, but he did not have any background. No matter what method he used, he'll definitely die in a few days. Dongfang Hao said coldly. He had absolute confidence in himself. Chapter 2685. Very soon, Lu Ming and the three elders of the law enforcement hall arrived. Everyone, I've invited the three enforcement hall elders here. You can rest assured now. Lu Ming said loudly. Everyone, rest assured. We can bear witness to this. One of the enforcement hall elders said. After that, he did not say anything else. After all, they were a little embarrassed to witness such a thing. I have a question. Even with the three enforcement hall elders as witnesses, if we win, do you have enough divine crystals to compensate us? An outer disciple asked loudly. That's right. If you're trying to trick us with nothing, then wouldn't we be betting for nothing? That's right. How many divine crystals do you have? Many people asked. Indeed, they had their doubts. They were afraid that Lu Ming did not have that many divine crystals with him. I know you don't believe me. Then I'll show you. Lu Ming waved his hand. Immediately, a pile of divine crystals appeared in the air, emitting strong divine qi. Here are 1,500,000 divine crystals. According to the odds of 100 to 1, it's enough for you to bet 150 million divine crystals. Lu Ming said loudly. Lu Ming had sold some mid-grade divine artifacts, but he still had 1,600,000 divine crystals left. So many divine crystals. This Lu Ming is actually so rich. Many people's eyes lit up. Also, if you're still worried, here are some mid-grade divine artifacts. You can also pawn them. Lu Ming took out 2 divine artifacts. Lu Ming still had 5 mid-grade divine artifacts left, all of which were at least mid-grade 3rd grade. Now, he took out 2 mid-grade 4th grade divine artifacts, each of which could be sold for 150,000 divine crystals. 2 divine artifacts could be sold for 3 million divine crystals. Even the deacon's eyes were burning with desire. Lu Ming actually has so many divine crystals and treasures on him. He's really willing to take them out. He knows he's about to die. He can't bring them with him when he's alive, and he can't bring them with him when he's dead. He wants to give them away before he dies so that Dongfang Hao won't take advantage of him. Of course, that's for sure. Many people thought that Lu Ming knew that he was not Dongfang Hao's opponent and would die in Dongfang Hao's hands. He was unwilling to let his wealth fall into Dongfang Hao's hands, so he used this method to deliberately disgust Dongfang Hao. Damn it! Dongfang Hao was indeed disgusted. He roared in his heart. He never thought that Lu Ming would have so much wealth on him. In his opinion, as long as he killed Lu Ming, all of this wealth would be his. But now, Lu Ming actually wanted to give away all of this wealth. His heart was bleeding. All right, hurry up and place your bets. If you bet on Dongfang Hao's victory, you'll bet on 100. If you bet on me, you'll bet on 1. Lu Ming shouted. I'll bet 200,000 on Dongfang Hao. I bet 300,000 on Dongfang Hao. I'll bet 200,000 deity crystals as well. Suddenly, a group of outer sect disciples rushed up crazily. They almost went bankrupt to bet on Dongfang Hao's victory. In their opinion, Lu Ming wanted to give away his wealth. It would be a waste if they did not want it. Come one by one. Don't rush. I'll write down a contract for you. Lu Ming took out a brush and ink. His brush danced like dragons and snakes as he wrote down a contract. Then, piles of deity crystals entered Lu Ming's storage ring. In just a short while, Lu Ming had collected 50 million deity crystals. If you bet 100, you'll get 1. If you bet 1,000,000, you can still earn 10,000. This is free money. It'll be a waste if you don't take it. Even some of the outer sect deacons were tempted. Of course, those outer sect elders only smiled as they watched. This amount of deity crystals was nothing in their eyes. Big brother, should we go and bet? Huang Wu looked at Huang Wan. All right, Lu Ji, you go and bet on my behalf. Bet 5 million deity crystals. Huang Wendao waved his hand and a storage ring flew to a young man. He could not do it himself, so he asked another young man to do it for him. As expected of an inner sect prodigy, he bet 5 million deity crystals in one go. Lu Ji took it and went to Lu Ming to bet. Lu Ming received more and more deity crystals. Soon, it exceeded 100 million. At this time, a few figures appeared beside Lu Ming. They were the outer sect deacons. Lu Zhong. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. Among these deacons, one of them was Lu Zhong. Back in Jiwu Forest, he wanted to kill Lu Ming. Deacons, do you want to bet too? Lu Ming asked. Why? Am I not welcome? Lu Zhong sneered. Welcome? Of course you're welcome. How much do you want to bet? Lu Ming smiled. I bet 20 million deity crystals. Lu Zhong took out a storage ring. 10 million for me too. 15 million for me too. The deacons said one after another. These deacons were from Tianhong's faction. Lu Ming did not stand on ceremony and accepted them one by one. Interesting. Shall we bet too? Since there are deity crystals to earn, why not? At this moment, a few young men and women flew toward Lu Ming. Each of them had a strong aura and were full of confidence. When many outer sect disciples saw this, their faces changed and they showed a look of awe. They were the top talents on the empty god list. These young men and women were the top talents on the empty god list. They were ranked above Dongfang Hao and were definitely powerful. This time, the battle between Lu Ming and Dongfang Hao had attracted some of the top talents on the empty god list. Bet. Lu Ming glanced at these people. This brat is courting death. I bet 5 million. A young man in a purple robe took out a storage ring and said lightly. He looked at Lu Ming as if he was looking at a dead man. How dare he accept Dongfang Hao's challenge when he just entered the sect? How foolish. I bet 5 million too. Another young man chimed in. These people were all geniuses from the Floating Light faction and belonged to the same faction as Dongfang Hao. Naturally, they were unhappy with Lu Ming. Lu Ming sneered a few times. He did not reject anyone and accepted all of them. In the end, Lu Ming received a total of 200 million deity crystals. If he lost, he would have to pay 2 million deity crystals. 200 million. Haha, I'm rich. I can cultivate in the cultivation sacred grounds in the inner sect area. Lu Ming was overjoyed. All right, I'll hand over the deity crystals and my own deity crystals to the elders of the enforcement hall for safekeeping. If I die in the battle, you can collect your deity crystals from the elders of the enforcement hall, according to the written agreement. Lu Ming handed the storage rings to the 3 elders of the enforcement hall. Immediately after, Lu Ming looked at Dongfang Hao and said, Dongfang Hao, there's no time like the present. Since we're all here today, why don't we have a battle today? Since you're in a hurry to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Dongfang Hao said coldly. He then flew into the air and landed on the fighting ring. Lu Ming also stepped onto the fighting ring and stood opposite Dongfang Hao. It's about to start. I wonder how many moves Lu Ming can take from Dongfang Hao? Dongfang Hao is a peak empty god and his combat strength is much stronger than his peers. I'm afraid Lu Ming won't be able to take 3 moves from him. I think so too. Not to mention 3 moves, even 1 move would be difficult. Let's wait for the deity crystals. Chapter 2686. Many people were discussing as they looked at the fighting ring. They were hoping that Lu Ming would be killed in 1 move so that they could collect the divine gems. Boom! On the fighting ring, a terrifying aura exploded from Dongfang Hao's body. His peak level 9 empty god realm divine force exploded and formed a powerful wave of divine force that pressed down on Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming's body was as still as a rock. Not bad. I would like to see how strong you are to dare to accept my life and death duel. Dongfang Hao said coldly. He then took a step forward and charged towards Lu Ming like a bolt of lightning. Swoosh! His palm was like a knife as it slashed towards Lu Ming. Although it was just a palm, the knife force was extremely sharp. He wanted to cut Lu Ming in half. Boom! Lu Ming struck. His divine force vibrated and shook off Dongfang Hao's wave of divine force. Then, he threw a punch at Dongfang Hao. How dare you not use a divine weapon to take my blow? You are courting death. I will cut you in half with this blow. Dongfang Hao roared in his heart as his palm landed heavily on Lu Ming's fist. On the fighting stage, there was a deep rumbling sound, like a heavenly drum. Immediately after, ripples of energy spread out in all directions. It seemed like a level 12 wind was blowing on the fighting stage. Then, the 2 figures retreated a few hundred meters. What? Many people's eyes narrowed. He blocked it. Lu Ming actually blocked Dongfang Hao's attack. How can this be? Lu Ming is only a level 4 empty god realm martial artist. How can he block Dongfang Hao's blow? That's too terrifying. It can't be? Many people were shocked, especially those who had bet on Dongfang Hao. Their hearts were in their mouths. It can't be. Dongfang Hao underestimated his opponent. He did not use much strength just now. Yes, that must be it. Lu Ming is the number 1 disciple after all. He has some combat strength. I think he used all his strength just now and Dongfang Hao did not use much strength. That's why he was able to block Dongfang Hao's blow. Yes. That must be it. Many people seem to have found a way to put themselves at ease. This kid, how did he break through to level 4 empty god realm? Below the fighting ring, Huang Wu was the most shocked. He was the first to exchange blows with Lu Ming, and he was well aware of Lu Ming's previous cultivation rank. When Lu Ming had just entered the sect, he was merely a demigod. However, he was already at level 4 empty god realm now. What kind of improvement speed was this? He was almost scared to death. What happened? Seeing Huang Wu's expression, Huang Wen frowned and asked, "That kid's cultivation isn't right." That's not right. When he first entered the sect a few years ago, he was only at the demigod realm. Huang Wu's mouth trembled as he spoke. What? Huang Wen and the others beside him were all shocked, their eyes wide open. Impossible. He was just a demigod a few years ago. Now, he is already at level 4 empty god realm with a solid foundation. This is impossible. This is completely impossible. Immediately, a young man shook his head in disbelief. Are you sure? Huang Wen asked with a gloomy face. Yes, he is indeed a demigod. A few years ago, he was indeed a demigod. Huang Wu trembled as he spoke. Impossible. I don't believe it. Perhaps, when you exchanged blows with him a few years ago, he hid his cultivation rank. In the chaotic universe, there are many secret skills that can hide one's cultivation rank. That's right. He must have hidden his cultivation rank. The few young men shook their heads and did not believe Huang Wu's words. They thought that Lu Ming had hidden his cultivation rank. What a joke. It was difficult to raise one's cultivation rank from Empty God Realm to level 4 Empty God Realm in a few years. They would not believe it even if they were beaten to death. Huang Wen also shook his head. He thought that Lu Ming had hidden his cultivation rank back then. Huang Wu's face turned pale, and he was at a loss for words. He was sure that he had not sensed wrongly. Demon! Demon! I hope he dies in the hands of Dongfang Hao, Huang Wu shouted in his heart. At that moment, Dongfang Hao was also shocked. Others thought that he had not used his full strength. However, he knew that he had used 100% of his divine force in the previous blow, other than the sacred weapon and sacred skill. He had intended to kill Lu Ming with one blow. However, he had not expected Lu Ming to be so powerful that he could block his blow with 100% of his divine force. Kid, you have some skills. Let's see how many blows you can take from me. Dongfang Hao said coldly. Cut the crap. Show me what you have. Otherwise, you won't have a chance. Lu Ming said flatly. Since you want to die, I will fulfill your wish. Dongfang Hao grabbed with his hand, and a golden war saber appeared in his hand. It looked like it was made of gold. Swoosh! The war saber shook and a saber radiance shot up to the sky. It was a lower rank 9 sacred weapon. With a thought, Lu Ming took out a long spear that was a low-grade level 9 divine weapon. Void 9 slashes. Dongfang Hao roared and merged with his saber. The saber radiance shot up to the sky and slashed at Lu Ming. This was a sacred skill. This was Dongfang Hao's second attack. He had used a real killing move and its power was terrifying. Fortunately, there was a light shield on the life and death arena. Otherwise, Dongfang Hao's saber radiance would have rushed outside and shrouded the spectators. Sacred skill? Lu Ming narrowed his eyes. This was his first time seeing someone use a sacred skill in a battle. The power of a sacred skill was indeed terrifying. It was not something an incomplete sacred skill could compare to. Let's see how strong it is, Lu Ming whispered. His spear shook and buzzed. Then, he pulled out his spear. For this move, Lu Ming did not use the sacred skill, exterminating 3 strikes. Instead, he used the incomplete sacred skill. Lu Ming had already cultivated that incomplete set of spear techniques to the highest level, the 7th level of mastery. Boom! The spear collided with the saber radiance. Lu Ming's spear instantly erupted with 15 layers of power. The 15 layers of power were like raging waves that surged towards the opponent. However, Dongfang Hao's saber radiance was powerful. It continued to attack and broke through the layers of power. Continuous explosions were heard, and the 2 figures retreated. This time, both of them retreated a few hundred meters before they could stabilize themselves. What? He blocked it again. How can this be? This is impossible. Many people found it hard to believe. Many of them rubbed their eyes hard, thinking that they had seen wrongly. However, after rubbing their eyes, the scene was still the same. It made them dumbfounded. Just now, Dongfang Hao had clearly used his divine technique. That power was extremely terrifying. He definitely did not hold back deliberately. However, Lu Ming actually managed to block it. Incomplete sacred skill, the 7th level. That kid has cultivated the incomplete sacred skill to the 7th level. What terrifying comprehension! Many people gasped in shock. To be able to cultivate an incomplete sacred skill to the 7th level when he was only a level 4 Empty God Realm martial artist, this was absolutely shocking. No wonder the power was so strong. This kid is too monstrous. He must be eliminated. Wang Wen's eyes were cold. Chapter 2687. Is this all you've got? You've disappointed me. On the fighting stage, Lu Ming shook his head and looked at Dongfang Hao with disdain. Lad, don't think that you can be so arrogant after blocking 2 of my attacks. I'll kill you with my next attack. Dongfang Hao roared, and his killing intent was as sharp as a blade. With his rank 9 Empty God Realm cultivation, he was an expert on the Empty God list. Even after using his divine skill, he was still unable to kill Lu Ming, a rank 4 Empty God Realm existence. In his opinion, it was a great humiliation. Kill! Dongfang Hao roared and raised his blade with both hands. Divine force exploded and rays of blade radiance appeared above Dongfang Hao's head. In the end, 9 rays of blade radiance appeared, and each of them exuded a terrifying aura. Dongfang Hao had activated his divine skill to the maximum. Void 9 slashes. 9 slashes to destroy gods. Dongfang Hao roared, and the 9 rays of blade radiance exuded a terrifying aura. With the power to destroy gods, they slashed towards Lu Ming. Before the blade radiance arrived, the terrifying blade energy had already swept towards Lu Ming and was about to tear Lu Ming apart. Lu Ming squinted his eyes. At this moment, Lu Ming had activated his sovereign divine force to the maximum. At the same time, Lu Ming had activated the battle character manual to double his combat strength. Lu Ming's body was filled with powerful energy, and he swept out his spear once again. This time, Lu Ming did not use his divine skill but the incomplete divine skill. Boom, boom, boom. The 9 rays of blade radiance formed by Dongfang Hao slashed towards Lu Ming one after another. Each ray of blade radiance was stronger than the previous one. Every time the blade radiance clashed with Lu Ming's long spear, there would be a terrifying explosion. Everyone's heart was in their throats as they stared at the scene without blinking. They wanted to know if Lu Ming would be killed by Dongfang Hao in one slash. I hope Dongfang Hao can kill that lad. Those who had bet on Dongfang Hao were praying in their hearts that Lu Ming would be killed by Dongfang Hao. Unfortunately, they were destined to be disappointed. After the 9 explosions, Lu Ming stood there motionless. There was nothing wrong with him, not even a wound. On the other hand, Dongfang Hao was gasping for breath. Although a rank 9 empty god could use a divine skill, it would consume a large amount of divine power. Dongfang Hao unleashing his full power just now consumed a lot of divine power. What? He's still alive. Why isn't that Lu Ming dead yet? Many people were shocked, and they found it hard to believe that a level 4 empty god realm martial artist could still stand under Dongfang Hao's full force attack. How is this possible? Damn it, why isn't this kid dead yet? Around the battle platform, many people were roaring in anger, including the Deacon Yu Zhong and the other deacons. Each of them had bet a large amount of divine crystals, especially Lu Zhong. He had bet a total of 20 million divine crystals. How he wished that Lu Ming would be killed. What powerful strength, as expected of the person with the gold token. The eyes of the 3 elders of the disciplinary hall were filled with astonishment. Previously, they had guessed that Lu Ming might be a disciple of some big shot in the Kongxian school. At this moment, they felt that it was highly possible. Otherwise, how could he be so powerful? They secretly rejoiced. It seemed that they had made the right choice in helping Lu Ming this time. Dongfang Hao, is this all you've got? You've disappointed me. Now it's my turn. Lu Ming said coldly. He took a step forward and charged towards Dongfang Hao. His long spear was like a mountain, pressing down on Dongfang Hao. Dongfang Hao used his remaining divine power to block the attack. However, after this collision, Dongfang Hao was pushed back. His face was pale and his body was trembling. Just now, he had unleashed his divine skill with all his might, and it had consumed too much of his divine power. At this moment, he could no longer block Lu Ming's attack. Kill! Lu Ming shouted. His long spear continued to attack, and Dongfang Hao was shrouded in spear shadows. Dongfang Hao rushed left and right, but it was useless. He was completely suppressed by Lu Ming. Bang! With a moment of carelessness, he was swept by Lu Ming's spear light. More than 10 layers of force exploded and bombarded Dongfang Hao's body. Dongfang Hao screamed as his body flew out and vomited blood. There was a big hole in his chest, and his breath was weak. Don't kill me. Dongfang Hao screamed, and his face was filled with horror. Kill, Lu Ming said coldly and stepped forward. His murderous intent was incomparably cold. Senior brother Huangwan, save me, save me. Dongfang Hao screamed in a heart-wrenching manner. If this continued, he would really die. He was so scared that he almost peed his pants. Before the battle, he had never dreamt that this would be the outcome. In his mind, he could easily kill Lu Ming, and he would never be in any danger. If he knew that Lu Ming was so terrifying, he would never have issued a life and death duel. Lu Ming, that's enough. Huang Wen shouted with a gloomy face. That's right. We're all brothers from the same sect. It's enough to determine the winner. Why do you have to kill each other? Lu Zhong also spoke. Ha ha ha, ridiculous. You guys don't know that this is a life and death duel. Dongfang Hao and I have signed a life and death duel. Between the two of us, only one can leave the stage. Lu Ming laughed. You should be lenient when possible. Lu Zhong said coldly. Lenient your ass. Lu Ming cursed and directly rushed towards Dongfang Hao. His spear was like lightning as it pierced towards Dongfang Hao. Dongfang Hao let out a hysterical scream and frantically tried to dodge. However, it was useless. The spear directly pierced through Dongfang Hao's head. Puff. Dongfang Hao's head burst open like a watermelon. Dongfang Hao had fallen. Dead. Dongfang Hao is dead. Many people's faces were pale as cold sweat flowed down their backs. They had bet a lot of divine skills on Dongfang Hao's victory. Some people even bet their entire fortune. But now, Dongfang Hao is dead. My divine crystals. Some people screamed in pain and couldn't wait to beat their chest and stomp their feet. As for those who did not bet in time, they rejoiced. They were secretly angry that they were late and lost a chance to pick up the money. Now, they realized how lucky they were. Damn it, damn it. Lu Zhong and a few other deacons' faces were as black as charcoal. How could this be? Huang Wan, Huang Wu, and the others below the fighting stage were pale. Dongfang Hao is dead? They found it hard to believe. A disciple who had just joined the sect for a few years had killed Dongfang Hao, who was on the empty god list. On the fighting stage, Lu Ming's long spear shook, shaking off the blood stains on it. He then reached out his hand and sucked Dongfang Hao's storage ring into his hand. This was his spoils of war. 3 elders, now that I've killed Dongfang Hao, I've won. Those divine crystals are all mine. Lu Ming looked at the 3 elders of the Law Enforcement Hall. That's right, you've won. These storage rings are for you. An elder of the Law Enforcement Hall suppressed the shock in his heart and threw the storage rings to Lu Ming. Lu Ming caught them with a fiery look in his eyes. Chapter 2688. This time, he had made a killing. He had won a total of 200 million pieces of low-grade divine gems. If they were exchanged for sect points, it would be 20,000 points. Cultivating in the Divine Vein Tower for a day was worth 1 point. 20,000 points was enough for Lu Ming to cultivate in the Divine Vein Tower for 50 years. Previously, Lu Ming had only cultivated in the Divine Vein Tower for 3 months, and his cultivation level had risen from level 3 Empty God Realm to level 4 Empty God Realm. The effect was shocking. The higher one's cultivation level was, the harder it was to make a breakthrough. Naturally, it would take more time. However, if he had cultivated in the Divine Vein Tower for 50 years, Lu Ming's cultivation level would have increased tremendously. Many people's hearts were bleeding when they saw Lu Ming keeping the storage ring. Those were their divine gems. My 10 million divine gems. An outer deacon's face twitched as his heart bled. Although they were all high-level true god existences, tens of millions of low-grade divine crystals was also a considerable amount of wealth. Humph, it's not that easy to take away my divine gems. Lu Zhong snorted and sent a message to Lu Ming. Lad, come to my mansion and return the 20 million divine gems to me. You have insulted me just now, and you must be punished. Take out another 50 million divine gems as compensation, and I will let bygones be bygones. His voice rang in Lu Ming's ears. It was a threat, a blatant threat. The corners of Lu Ming's mouth curled up slightly. He looked at Lu Zhong, and his voice reverberated throughout the entire place. Deacon Lu Zhong, you're already so old. Don't you understand that you have to accept your loss? Given your status as a deacon, you actually sent me a voice transmission to threaten me to return 20 million divine gems to you. In addition, you also threatened me to compensate you with another 50 million divine gems. Lu Ming did not try to hide his words. Everyone had heard what he had said. Everyone looked at Lu Zhong in unison. Some of them looked at him with disdain. After losing the divine gems, Lu Zhong had secretly threatened Lu Ming. He was despicable. Damned bastard, damned. The people in the entertainment center were roaring furiously. They were so angry that they were about to burn. He did not expect Lu Ming to be so bold as to directly say his threat, causing him to lose face. "Kid, you're playing with fire. You're courting death." Lu Zhong transmitted his voice to Lu Ming. "Look, he's here again. He's threatening me again, saying that he's going to kill me." Lu Ming let out a strange cry. Then, he cupped his fists towards the 3 law enforcement elders and said, "3 elders, a deacon is threatening this disciple in public. This disciple is truly in fear and trepidation." Lu Zhong. One of the law enforcement elders glanced coldly at Lu Zhong. Lu Zhong shuddered and hurriedly cried out, "Elder, there's no such thing. This brat is framing me." You better not." The law enforcement elder snorted coldly. Lu Zhong's face darkened, and he did not dare to say another word. "Lu Ming, you're too greedy. There are so many divine gems. Are you really going to swallow them all? I've bet all my money. Can you return some to me?" At that moment, a young man shouted, "That's right. Return some to me." Then, the rest of the people shouted. Even a few supreme talents on the empty god list spoke out. They had bet a lot and had suffered heavy losses. "Return? Ridiculous. If you're not greedy, would you have lost to me?" Lu Ming sneered. "Return? How is that possible? These people had been hoping for his death. Why would he return the divine gems to them now?" "Lu Ming, you should know when to stop. I'm only asking you to return a portion of the divine gems, not all of it. You've made a fortune. We're all brothers, and it'll be easier for you to get along in the future. Otherwise, you've offended so many people. Even if you have so many divine gems, it'll be difficult for you to spend them." A young man in a yellow robe said coldly. He was one of the supreme talents on the empty god list and was from the Tianhong faction. Although he did not make it clear, everyone could tell that he was threatening Sua Mo. What he meant was that Lu Ming would offend too many people if he swallowed all the divine gems. He was afraid that he would not be able to spend them even if he was alive. This time, the 3 elders of the law enforcement hall did not say anything. They also felt that Lu Ming would not benefit from offending so many people at once. Even though Lu Ming had an extraordinary background, the people present were all under the saints' factions. If he offended all of them, he would have a hard time in the future. "Haha," Lu Ming sneered. These people were obviously heartbroken because they had lost the bet and wanted a portion of the divine gems back. How could they do that? "All right, if you want a portion of the divine gems back, sure." Lu Ming's voice made many people's eyes light up. "As long as you are an outer disciple, I will give you a chance. Come up and fight with me. If you defeat me, I will return all the divine gems. However, if you are defeated by me, you have to leave something behind." Lu Ming continued. "What?" Most of the outer disciples were immediately dejected. Defeat Lu Ming? What a joke. Even Dongfang Hao, who was on the empty god list, had been killed by Lu Ming. How could they be a match for Lu Ming? Wouldn't they be looking for trouble if they went up? However, some people's eyes lit up. They were the supreme talents on the empty god list. In this battle, victory or defeat is the only thing that matters. I don't care if you live or die. Whoever comes up and fights me, if you win, I'll give you double the amount of divine crystals. If you lose, you have to leave behind a treasure. For example, a king-grade divine art, a divine skill above the 3rd level, a medium-grade divine artifact, or the corresponding divine crystals. Lu Ming said again, "Double the divine gems. Remember what you said." The young man in the yellow robe said loudly, "Now that there are so many witnesses, I will keep my word." Lu Ming said, "All right, I challenge you now." The young man in the yellow robe moved and rushed into the fighting ring. Huang Qinggan is going to fight. Many people's eyes lit up. Huang Qinggan, who was ranked 98th on the empty god list, was more than 20 ranks higher than Dongfang Hao. His combat strength was also stronger than Dongfang Hao's. "What treasure will you use to fight me?" Lu Ming asked. "A royal grade cultivation skill." Huang Qinggan waved his hand, and a yellow scroll appeared in his hand. A royal grade cultivation skill. Lu Ming's eyes suddenly lit up. He cultivated the universe myriad Tao art. As long as he cultivated other divine arts, as long as he cultivated a corresponding strand of divine power, he would be able to ignite the corresponding divine flame. In the future, As long as he continued to cultivate the universe's myriad Tao art, that kind of divine power would also increase. Lu Ming had wanted to cultivate it for a long time, but he did not have any other divine skills. Originally, he had wanted to go to the depository of scriptures in the inner area to exchange for a divine skill. All right, where is your receipt? Let me see how many divine gems you have bet. Lu Ming said. Then, Huang Qinggan took out the receipt. It was a total of 5 million divine gems. For an empty god, 5 million divine gems was a terrifying number. It was no wonder that Huang Qinggan was so anxious. Chapter 2689. All right, as long as you can defeat me, I will return you 10 million. Now, let's hand over the divine crystals to the enforcement elder. Lu Ming took out a storage ring and placed 10 million divine crystals into it before handing it over to one of the enforcement elders. Huang Qinggan handed the king-grade divine skill to the law enforcement elder. Then, the two of them returned to the fighting stage. Boom! A powerful aura erupted from Huang Qinggan's body as his divine force surged, pushing it to the limit. Although you've defeated Dongfang Hao, you're still a little lacking if you want to defeat me, Huang Qinggan said indifferently, brimming with confidence. Just now, he had seen the battle between Lu Ming and Dongfang Hao. Lu Ming was only slightly stronger than Dongfang Hao, and he might not even be stronger than Dongfang Hao. The reason why Dongfang Hao was killed was because Dongfang Hao had exhausted his divine force. That was why he was killed by Lu Ming. Huang Qinggan's battle strength was stronger than Dongfang Hao's by a large margin. He was confident that he could defeat Lu Ming. You're very confident. I hope you have the strength to back it up, Lu Ming said indifferently. You'll see soon enough, Huang Qinggan said coldly as a long spear appeared in his hand. Huang Qinggan was also proficient in using long spears. Tsukuyami Ghost Spear. With a long whistle, Huang Qinggan made his move, thrusting out his spear. In an instant, ghostly shadows appeared on the battle stage, and countless howls rang out. Swoosh! All of a sudden, a black spear shadow pierced towards Lu Ming, as fast as lightning. Huang Qinggan had used his strongest divine skill the moment he made his move. Wong! Lu Ming's long spear vibrated as he circulated his divine force, thrusting out his spear. Dang! A sharp collision sound rang out as Lu Ming defeated Huang Qinggan's spear shadow. However, at this time, a strange energy invaded Lu Ming's body, appearing in Lu Ming's sea of consciousness in the blink of an eye. It turned into several ghostly shadows, trying to tear apart Lu Ming's soul. Huang Qinggan's attack could actually directly attack the soul. It was very strange. However, Lu Ming circulated his sovereign lord's god force, causing the ghostly figures to dissipate. Even so, Lu Ming was forced back several steps. On the surface, it looked like Lu Ming was at a disadvantage. Lu Ming is no match for him. He's been pushed back. As expected, he is no match for Huang Qinggan. It's already a miracle that he could defeat Dongfang Hao. After all, Dongfang Hao is ranked last on the virtual god list, and his ranking is not stable. He can't be compared to Huang Qinggan. That's right, Lu Ming is about to lose. Unfortunately, this is not a life and death battle. Without signing a life and death battle agreement, Huang Qinggan has no way of killing Lu Ming. Some people immediately started discussing. Those who had lost their divine crystals wished that Lu Ming would be defeated. Although they wouldn't be able to get their divine crystals back, they would still feel a little better in their hearts. Lose. After Huang Qinggan had pushed back Lu Ming, he continued to attack Lu Ming relentlessly. Petty tricks. Lu Ming sneered. This time, he had used his sovereign lord's god force to guard his sea of consciousness. His opponent's attack could not penetrate his sea of consciousness. Lu Ming continued to attack with his spear, clashing with his opponent. In an instant, the two had exchanged more than 10 blows. The more Huang Qinggan fought, the more shocked he became. Huang Qinggan, with your strength, it seems like you won't be able to get your divine crystals back. Lu Ming sneered. Lu Ming, don't be too proud. Take my strongest move, Tsukuyami Ghostly Spear, shattering divine ring. Huang Qinggan roared furiously. Instantly, his strength skyrocketed once again. That is the second level of the divine skill. It's terrifying. No wonder he's ranked 98th on the virtual god list. He's only a level 9 empty god realm martial artist, but he has already cultivated the Tsukuyami ghostly spear to the 2nd level. Many people exclaimed. Generally speaking, a level 9 empty god realm martial artist could comprehend and cultivate the divine skill. However, those who were not talented enough would find it difficult to cultivate it successfully. Only those who were talented could cultivate it successfully. However, they were usually stuck at the 1st level. Only those who had broken through to the true god realm could cultivate to the 2nd level. For example, the Chaotic Galaxy's Yuan Luo Hall Master, Kong Ji, and the Walkabout Sect Master, Situ Haonan, were both level 4 true gods. They had cultivated for countless years and had only cultivated to the 2nd level of the divine skill. Huang Qinggan was only a level 9 empty god realm martial artist, but he had already cultivated to the 2nd level of the divine skill. The long spear in Huang Qinggan's hand vibrated and spun continuously. A black vortex appeared at the tip of the spear, emitting a terrifying tearing force. Kill! Huang Qinggan roared and rushed towards Lu Ming. The black vortex also rushed towards Lu Ming, wanting to crush Lu Ming into pieces. The power of the 2nd level of the divine skill is indeed amazing. Lu Ming squinted his eyes slightly. He knew that he would not be able to fend off the other party's move with the incomplete divine skill alone. Then, let's see the power of the 3 strokes of destruction. Lu Ming muttered and the spear suddenly changed. The first move of the 3 strokes of destruction, sky-piercing. A low voice came out from Lu Ming's mouth. Lu Ming's body merged with the long spear and a spear radiance shot out. It was breathtaking and looked as if it was going to break the void. Boom! Lu Ming's spear radiance rushed into the black vortex that Huang Qinggan had created. Destroy! Huang Qinggan roared. However, in the next moment, his face changed drastically. His eyeballs popped out and he looked horrified. Boom! Then, the black vortex that he had created rumbled continuously. In the end, it was pierced by a terrifying spear radiance and exploded. Huang Qinggan screamed. His body flew backward like a kite with a broken string and fell heavily on the ground. He slid all the way to the edge of the fighting ring before he stopped. The scene was completely silent. Not a single sound could be heard. Everyone looked at the scene in disbelief. Everyone saw that Huang Qinggan was vomiting blood. His aura was extremely weak, and there was a hole in his chest. Blood was flowing out. Defeated. Huang Qinggan was defeated. Lu Ming had defeated Huang Qinggan again. Wasn't his combat strength too terrifying? Yu Zhong, Huang Wan, and the others were shocked beyond words. Do you still want to fight? Lu Ming landed on the fighting ring and strode toward Huang Qinggan. I give up, I give up, I give up. Huang Qinggan shouted and rushed down the fighting ring. Lu Ming won this battle. These are your spoils of war. The few elders of the Tribunal Council were also shocked. They handed over 10 million divine gems and the royal grade super skill to Lu Ming. What Lu Ming used just now, was that a super skill? It must be a super skill and it's extremely powerful. He's only a level 4 empty god realm martial artist. How could he cultivate a super skill successfully? Isn't this too abnormal? It's insane. If he grows up, the Kongxian school will have another holy son. Many people were still unable to calm down and were immersed in shock. The 3 strokes of annihilation are indeed powerful, Lu Ming muttered. He realized that the 3 strokes of annihilation were more powerful than Huang Qinggan's Tsukimi Go spear. Just now, Lu Ming had only used the power of the first stroke to break his opponent's second stroke. Chapter 2690. The power of the 3 devastating strikes was indeed amazing. Just the first level had broken Huang Qinggan's second-level divine skill. However, this was also supported by the battle incantation. After cultivating the battle word essence, any divine skill or secret skill that he cast would be more powerful than others. In addition, the destructive 3 strikes was already very powerful. Hence, Lu Ming was able to break the other party's second strike with his first strike. Lu Ming held the long spear in his hand and stood in the fighting ring like an invincible god of war. For a moment, he was the center of attention. Is there anyone else who wants to fight? Lu Ming's eyes were like lightning as he looked around. As he spoke, Lu Ming took out a pile of divine gems and absorbed the energy in them to recover his divine power. Using divine skills consumed a lot of divine power. Although he had only used one move, Lu Ming had used up a lot of his divine power. After all, his cultivation level was still low. Those who were glanced at by Lu Ming changed their expressions and did not dare to look at Lu Ming. Even the supreme talents on the empty god list looked gloomy. Huang Qinggan was ranked 98th on the empty god list, which was far superior to Dongfang Hao. Moreover, he had cultivated divine skills to the second level. With his current combat strength, he might be ranked higher, but he had still been defeated by Lu Ming. Some of the people present were ranked higher than Huang Qinggan, but not by much. They were not confident that they would be able to defeat Lu Ming. For a moment, no one stepped up. Who else? Lu Ming asked again, his eyes shining brighter. I'll take you on. Just then, a cold voice sounded. In the distance, a figure came like a whirlwind and landed on the fighting ring. It was a skinny young man with red skin. Obviously, he was not a human, but Lu Ming could not tell what race he was from. It's Scorpion Tiger, ranked 51st on the empty god list. Seeing the young man with red skin, many people were shocked. The Scorpion Tiger is about to attack. I wonder if Lu Ming dares to accept the challenge. The Scorpion Tiger's strength is far above Huang Qinggan's. I heard that the Scorpion Tiger once fought with a level 1 true god expert. Although he wasn't his match, he still managed to escape. I heard about it too. Many people started a heated discussion. The difference between the empty god realm and the true god realm was the difference of a large realm. The difference in strength was shocking. It was difficult for an empty god realm expert to fight with a true god realm expert. Not to mention fighting, it was difficult to even escape. This showed how strong the Scorpion Tiger was. Ranked 51st on the virtual god list? Lu Ming muttered as a powerful battle intent surged from his body. I'll bet a level 4 divine skill with you. If you lose, you have to give me 10 million divine gems. If I lose, the level 4 divine skill is yours. Scorpion Tiger took out a scroll and said, Sure. Lu Ming accepted the challenge. 4-level divine techniques could only be cultivated up to the 4th level. Lu Ming did not think much of it. The 9-level Crimson Gold Armor and Apocalyptic 3 Strikes that he cultivated were both 9-level divine techniques and could be cultivated up to the 9th level. However, the market value of a level 4 divine skill was extremely high. If it was sold on the market, it could be sold for tens of millions of divine gems. Lu Ming naturally would not reject it. The two of them handed the divine gems and skill scrolls to each of the enforcement elders. Lu Ming actually accepted the challenge. He's really bold. Bold? I think he's just greedy. However, the Scorpion Tiger is far stronger than Huang Qinggan and Dongfang Hao. Lu Ming is definitely no match for him. Look at how confident Lu Ming is. Could it be that he still has a trump card? Let's just wait and see. This time, it was different from the previous time. Some people felt that Lu Ming was unfathomable and might have a trump card. They were not certain that Lu Ming would definitely lose. Boom, boom. On the fighting ring, the two people's auras erupted. The waves of divine power collided first. Whoosh! The Scorpion Tiger moved. Although he was skinny, his explosive power was astonishing. He rushed towards Lu Ming at an astonishing speed. A blood-red long sword appeared in his hand, and he stabbed towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming only saw a blood-red sword light piercing towards him at an incredible speed. Retreat. Lu Ming took a step back and quickly retreated. His long spear swept towards the Scorpion Tiger. However, the Scorpion Tiger's sword momentum changed midway, and he actually avoided Lu Ming's long spear. You want to use this move to stop me? It's useless. Chonglu's swordsmanship. A cold voice came from the Scorpion Tiger's mouth. Then, streaks of sword light bloomed from the Scorpion Tiger's hand. They were densely packed and rushed towards Lu Ming. Each of the streaks of sword light was extremely fast. Level 2 Divine Skill. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. The Scorpion Tiger's divine skill had also been cultivated to the 2nd level. Moreover, it seemed that his mastery was higher than Huang Qinggan's. 3 strokes of destruction, sky-piercing. Lu Ming whispered. His divine power surged and he stabbed out with his spear. Whoosh! The dazzling spear light lit up again, like a star in the dark night, illuminating the night. The first style of the 3 strokes of destruction was displayed again. Wherever the spear light passed, the scorpion tiger's sword light would constantly shatter and explode. Just as the scorpion tiger was about to end up like Huang Qinggan, his body suddenly trembled and he moved a few hundred meters away, avoiding Lu Ming's attack. Speed divine skill. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. The scorpion tiger had not only cultivated its attack-type divine skill to the 2nd level, but it had also mastered a speed-type divine skill. Just now, it had used its speed-type divine skill to move horizontally and evade Lu Ming's attack. Amazing! The scorpion tiger has cultivated a speed divine skill. He is only an empty god, but he is so powerful. He is indeed powerful. No wonder he is ranked 51st on the empty god list. Many people exclaimed. A level 9 empty god realm martial artist could cultivate one divine skill to the 1st level. The scorpion tiger had cultivated several divine skills, which was indeed terrifying. Based on this point alone, he was far superior to Huang Qinggan. Lu Ming's ultimate move can't hit the scorpion tiger. He is probably going to lose. He is definitely going to lose. With his divine power, he will not be able to display much of the power of his ultimate move. He is going to lose. He is finally going to lose. Haha. Some people burst out laughing. Your attack is useless against me. Stand there and let me hit you. The scorpion tiger said coldly. Then, he moved and rushed toward Lu Ming. His speed was several times faster than before. Whoosh! Whoosh! The scorpion tiger's body appeared on Lu Ming's left and on Lu Ming's right. Rays of sword radiance bloomed continuously, slashing toward Lu Ming's vital points. Lu Ming waved his long spear and tried his best to block the attack. Clang! Clang! The two of them exchanged more than 10 blows, and Lu Ming kept retreating. Let's see how many blows you can take. The scorpion tiger's voice rang out, and his attacks became more intense and violent. All of a sudden, Lu Ming revealed a flaw. Now, the scorpion tiger's eyes lit up. He became one with his sword and performed his strongest move. His entire body turned into a ray of red sword radiance, rushing past Lu Ming's flaw and attacking Lu Ming. Lu Ming could not avoid this move. Chapter 2691. Grasping Lu Ming's weakness, the scorpion tiger launched its most powerful attack. Lu Ming had nowhere to run and was about to be hit. You'll lose, the scorpion tiger said ferociously, as if it could already see 10 million divine gems waving at it. Lose? You'll lose. At this moment, Lu Ming's indifferent voice rang out. Then, his body emitted a crimson light, and a crimson golden armor appeared on Lu Ming's body. It was the 9-layer crimson golden armor. Lu Ming had purposely exposed his weakness. Lu Ming did not cultivate any speed-type divine skill, so he could not keep up with the scorpion tiger's speed with the incomplete wings rock skill. If he wanted to defeat the scorpion tiger, he would have to lure it closer. Therefore, he purposely exposed a weakness. The scorpion tiger was fooled and charged at Lu Ming. Clang! The scorpion tiger's sword hit the crimson golden armor, producing an ear-piercing sound and sparks. The crimson golden armor kept shaking, but it finally blocked the scorpion tiger's attack. I blocked it. Lu Ming was delighted. Lu Ming had only cultivated the 9-layer crimson golden armor to the 1st level. He was afraid that he would not be able to block the scorpion tiger's attack. However, he had obtained the 9-layer crimson golden armor from Jing Yu's portrait. It was as mysterious as the 3 strikes of destruction. With the help of the sovereign's divine power, its defense was amazing and it successfully blocked the scorpion tiger's attack. How can this be? The scorpion tiger was shocked when it failed to break through Lu Ming's defense. It wanted to retreat, but it was too late. Lu Ming would not give it such a chance. Buzz! A long spear swept towards the scorpion tiger at a terrifying speed. Bang! The scorpion tiger was hit squarely. It screamed and flew out like a broken sack. It landed heavily on the fighting ring and slid a few thousand meters away. Its body was almost split in two. Blood flowed out. It was severely injured. Lu Ming moved, and his long spear stopped in front of the scorpion tiger's forehead. "Don't kill me!" The scorpion tiger roared and broke out in cold sweat. Only after shouting did he realize that they were not fighting to the death. Lu Ming could not kill him. "You lost," Lu Ming said indifferently. With a shake of his spear, a burst of energy gushed out and sent the scorpion tiger flying out of the arena. The scene was in an uproar. The scorpion tiger was defeated. A supreme talent who was ranked 51st on the virtual god list had been defeated by Lu Ming, a disciple who had just entered the school. This was extremely rare in the history of Kongxian School. Most importantly, Lu Ming's cultivation was only at level 4 empty god realm. This kind of battle prowess was too terrifying. A defensive divine skill, level 4 ethereal god realm. Not only did he cultivate an offensive divine skill, but he also cultivated a defensive divine skill. What kind of monstrous comprehension is that? Is he still a new disciple? His combat strength is too strong. Today, he has defeated 3 geniuses on the empty god list. From now on, Dongfang Hao will fall from the empty god list, and Lu Ming will be ranked 51st on the empty god list. Many people looked at each other in dismay. A level 4 empty god realm martial artist was ranked 51st on the empty god list. This had never happened in Kongxian School. This, Lu Zhong, Huang Wan, and the rest were shocked speechless. Then, cold killing intent gushed out from their hearts. The more powerful Lu Ming was, the greater the threat he posed to them, and the more they had to get rid of him. Haha, the younger generation will surpass us in time. An enforcement elder laughed and handed over 10 million divine gems and the divine skill to Lu Ming. Lu Ming had earned another huge sum of money. Many people were green with envy. Who else wants to fight me? After putting away the spoils of war, Lu Ming scanned the surroundings. The arena quieted down and no one spoke. The geniuses on the empty god list shut their mouths. What a joke. Even Scorpion Tiger had been defeated. If they went up, they would also be defeated. Lu Ming asked a few more times, but no one came up. This was because no one in the top 50 of the empty god list was present. These people were either out for training, missions, or cultivating in seclusion. Even if some of them knew that Lu Ming and Dongfang Hao were going to fight to the death, they would not come to watch. Dongfang Hao, a new disciple, was not enough to arouse their curiosity. Therefore, no one dared to fight. Since no one wants to fight, let's call it a day. Lu Ming waved his hand and kept the long spear. He then thanked the 3 enforcement elders and turned into a beam of light and left. He left behind a group of people gnashing their teeth. Lu Ming did not return to his residence. Instead, he flew directly to the inner sect area. It was no longer safe to stay in the outer sect area. He would definitely be targeted. Hence, Lu Ming might as well come to the inner sect area. Arriving at the inner area, Lu Ming took out 10 million divine gems and exchanged them for 10,000 points. He then entered the Spirit Vein Tower. In the Spirit Vein Tower, Lu Ming sat cross-legged and absorbed the divine qi in the outer area to recover his divine power. The divine power here was very rich. Soon, Lu Ming recovered to his peak state. After recovering to his peak state, Lu Ming moved his hand and a scroll appeared. This scroll was the royal grade divine skill that Lu Ming had obtained from Huang Qinggan. Lu Ming opened it and read, "Ice Divine Skill." He opened it and saw the name of the divine skill. Lu Ming read it carefully. This was an ordinary royal grade divine skill. There were a total of 7 levels. When one cultivated to the 7th level, they would be able to cultivate the Ice Divine Skill. The Ice Divine Skill was considered ordinary among the royal grade divine skills. However, Lu Ming did not care. As long as it was royal grade divine skill, it was useful to Lu Ming. Lu Ming immediately studied it carefully. A few days later, Lu Ming began to cultivate. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming had stayed in the Spirit Vein Tower for half a month. For half a month, Lu Ming had been comprehending and cultivating the Han Ice Divine formula. After half a month of cultivation, Lu Ming finally cultivated a trace of Ice Divine Skill. The trace of Ice Divine Skill mixed with the Sovereign's divine power and flowed through his meridians. Success! Lu Ming was overjoyed. He immediately gave up on circulating the Ice Divine skill and began circulating the Heaven and Earth 10,000 Tao technique. That wisp of Ice Divine power instantly merged with the power of the ruler, becoming one. A few days later, in Lu Ming's Dantian, near the Divine Fire, a light suddenly lit up. As time passed, the light became brighter and more resplendent. Slowly, it turned into a wisp of divine fire. Another divine fire appeared. This was the second divine fire. If others knew that a person had two divine fires in his Dantian, they would be scared to death. In the desolate era's cultivation knowledge, a person could only ignite one divine fire. It was impossible to ignite a second divine fire. However, Lu Ming had done it. He really ignited a second divine fire. This universe myriad Tao technique is really amazing. Lu Ming exclaimed inwardly. Jing Yu had obtained the universe myriad Tao art from a ruin. Even he didn't know where it came from. Chapter 2692. Continue. Lu Ming closed his eyes and focused on cultivating. Right now, the Ice Divine skill was no longer of much use to Lu Ming. He only needed to continue cultivating the Heaven and Earth 10,000 Tao technique, and that wisp of Ice Divine fire would gradually grow stronger. Time flew, and a year passed in the blink of an eye. In this year, Lu Ming focused on cultivating. The frigid Ice Divine flame had finally grown to the size of the sovereign Divine flame. Two divine flames burned in his Dantian, looking extremely mysterious. At this time, Lu Ming ended his cultivation. Swoosh! Lu Ming waved his hand and circulated his frigid Ice Divine force. A long spear condensed from ice appeared in his hand, exuding a bone-chilling aura. Haha, now I don't have to worry about others discovering my sovereign divine force. Lu Ming laughed. Lu Ming could now use the frigid Ice Divine force alone. Although it wasn't as strong as the sovereign divine force, it was very useful to fool others. Moreover, when Lu Ming used the sovereign divine force, the frigid Ice Divine force would erupt together with the sovereign divine force. Lu Ming's sovereign divine force was 20% stronger than before. Don't underestimate 20%. 20% stronger was already shocking enough. One had to know that Lu Ming could continue to cultivate other types of sovereign divine forces. When the number of sovereign divine forces increased, their power would be shocking. Lu Ming was very satisfied with this result. Now that I've cultivated two types of sovereign divine force, it's not a good time to break through to the next realm. I should consolidate my cultivation before coming to the Divine Vein Tower to cultivate. Lu Ming pondered. 1 point was required to cultivate in the Divine Vein Tower for a day, which was equivalent to 10,000 sovereign divine crystals. Although Lu Ming was rich and had more than 200 million sovereign divine crystals, he didn't want to waste them. In the past year, he had spent close to 400 points, which was 4 million sovereign divine crystals. If it was in the past, Lu Ming wouldn't have been able to afford it. The scripture depository in the inner courtyard is said to have a large number of divine skills, divine arts, and even secret techniques. I can use points to exchange for them. Let's go take a look. Thinking of this, Lu Ming's eyes suddenly brightened. He planned to exchange for a few more divine techniques to cultivate. Sharpening a blade would not delay the work of chopping firewood. Even though it would take some time for him to cultivate the divine art, he would not waste that time. As long as Lu Ming could cultivate the divine flame and the power of the divine flame would increase as well. If Lu Ming waited until his cultivation base improved, and then cultivated other divine abilities and magics, it would take him a lot more time to refine his new god flame to the same level as the Sovereign Lord's god flame. His cultivation was still low at the moment, so he didn't have to spend much time on it. Once he succeeded in cultivating it, it would be best for him to raise his cultivation along with it. Lu Ming immediately walked out of the Divine Vein Tower and headed for the Scripture Depository Pavilion. Not long after, Lu Ming arrived at the Scripture Depository. The Hidden Scriptures Pavilion was a huge pavilion with 5 floors. It was extremely spacious. There were naturally people guarding the Scripture Depository Pavilion, and they were all terrifying experts. However, Lu Ming took out his golden token and was able to enter the Scripture Depository Pavilion without a hitch. So many! Lu Ming's eyes widened when he arrived on the first floor. What came into view were shelves after shelves. There were at least a few hundred of them, and every single one of them was filled with God's skills. They were either in the form of jade talismans or scrolls. However, they were all protected by formations. They could only be taken out with the approval of the Scripture Depository Pavilion's guardian. There were introductions at the bottom of the shelves. Lu Ming looked through them one by one. They were all divine skills, but they were relatively low level. Most of them were between the first and third tiered. Lu Ming didn't see anything above the fourth tiered. Next, Lu Ming went to the second floor. The second floor also had divine skills, but they were of a higher level. Most of them were at the fourth or fifth tiered. Lu Ming looked around. Other than divine skills, he didn't see any divine arts or secret arts. Lu Ming walked around and came to the third floor. The number of divine skills on the third floor was much lower. Most of them were at the sixth or seventh tiered. The value of these divine skills was shocking. Generally, only high-level true God Realm experts or heavenly God Realm experts could cultivate and display their power. Similarly, there were no secret arts or divine arts on this floor. Lu Ming's goal wasn't divine skills. Shaking his head, Lu Ming went to the fourth floor. The collection on the fourth floor was even smaller. However, most of them were at the seventh or eighth tier divine skills, and there were only a few dozen of them. Great Sun Divine Art. Suddenly, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He finally saw a divine art. This divine art was called the Great Sun Divine Art. It was also a king-grade divine art. Compared to the frigid ice divine art, it was more profound. The Great Sun Divine Art cultivated was stronger than the frigid ice divine art. Finally, there's a divine art. Lu Ming was overjoyed. He looked at the divine art one by one. Subsequently, he saw more than a dozen king-grade divine arts. All of them could cultivate king-grade divine force, and each of them had their own mysteries. However, the points required to exchange for each divine art were shockingly high. The lowest cost was 1,000 points, while the highest cost 5,000 points. 1,000 points was equivalent to 10 million divine crystals. For example, the Great Sun Divine Art required 3,000 points. The price is really high. Even if I use up all my divine crystals, I can only exchange for a few. Lu Ming sighed. After looking for a while, Lu Ming did not rush to make a move. Instead, he looked at the fifth floor. If the fourth floor had a king-grade divine art, then what kind of treasure would there be on the fifth floor? Would there be a saint-grade divine art? Lu Ming's eyes lit up as he stepped onto the fifth floor. 9-tier divine arts and secret arts. There were even fewer divine arts on the fifth floor. There were only slightly more than 10 of them. Moreover, the points required to exchange for each step were shockingly high. 300,000 points. Even the cheapest 9-tier divine art required 300,000 points, which was equivalent to 3 billion divine crystals. Even a heavenly god would find it difficult to take out so many divine crystals, let alone a true god. Lu Ming gasped. With so many points, he could only look at them. Then, Lu Ming looked at a few secret arts. Amazing! Really amazing! Lu Ming exclaimed as he looked at them. His eyes were burning with passion. Secret arts were different from divine arts. Secret arts had various mysteries. Once successfully cultivated, they would accompany the cultivator for life, and they would improve as the cultivator's cultivation level increased. For example, there were some secret techniques that would allow one's battle prowess to increase exponentially after they were cultivated. This was similar to the battle character formula. However, the battle formula was even more mysterious. Some secret arts would have all kinds of strange effects after cultivation, and their power was even more shocking than divine arts. However, there were too few secret arts, and many of them had very strict cultivation requirements. Therefore, very few people succeeded in cultivating them. The fifth floor contained a few secret techniques, but there were very few introductions, only a few words. However, the price tag made Lu Ming gasp. Among them, the cheapest secret skill required 100,000 points to exchange for, while the most expensive secret skill required 2 million points to exchange for. Chapter 2693. Lu Ming was speechless. He had made a fortune and thought that he had become rich. Now, he realized that he was still poor. It's a pity that there aren't any divine skills. Lu Ming looked around but did not see any sacred grade divine techniques. He shook his head with some pity. The divine skills were the divine skills of the Kongxian school, and only a few people were qualified to cultivate them. It was normal that there were no divine skills here. I'd better exchange for a few royal grade divine skills to cultivate, Lu Ming thought to himself. He had the 9 layers of crimson gold armor and the 3 strokes of destruction. They were enough for the time being, and he did not need to exchange for anything else. As for the secret skills, although Lu Ming was eager to exchange for them, they were too expensive and he could not afford them. He had to give up. However, he did not have enough points with him. He needed to exchange for some points and then come back to exchange for the royal grade divine skills. Lu Ming walked out of the scripture depository and came to the exchange point. He took out 150 million divine gems and exchanged them for 15,000 points. He then came back to the scripture depository. This golden dragon divine formula and this great sun divine formula. Lu Ming was interested in the 2 divine skills. The golden dragon divine skill cost 5,000 points, and the divine sun skill cost 3,000 points. Lu Ming decided to exchange for these 2 divine skills. Senior, I would like to exchange for a royal grade divine skill, Lu Ming said to an old man at the entrance of the scripture depository. Exchange for a divine skill? The price of a royal grade divine skill is not cheap. Which one would you like to exchange for? The old man looked curiously inside the scripture depository. Lu Ming's cultivation level was obvious to him. He could tell that Lu Ming was a level 4 empty god realm martial artist. How could a level 4 empty god realm martial artist have so many points to exchange for a royal grade divine skill? Senior, I would like to exchange for the golden dragon divine skill and the divine sun skill. Lu Ming nodded. What? You want to exchange for 2? The old man was truly shocked. Then, he said with a straight face, little guy, you only need to practice 1 king grade divine art. It's useless to exchange for 2. Junior knows that I didn't exchange for it for my own cultivation. One of them was for someone else. Lu Ming said. Of course, he couldn't say that he had cultivated it himself. All right, since that's the case, this old man won't say anything more. These 2 techniques are worth a total of 8,000 points. The old man said, Senior, this is my identity token. Lu Ming handed his identity token to the old man. The old man took it and swiped it on an array disk, immediately earning 8,000 points. This little guy actually has so many points. The old man was slightly shocked as well, and then he said, Wait for me here. I'll go get the 2 divine techniques. The old man stood up and entered the scripture depository. Soon, he came back with 2 scrolls and handed them to Lu Ming. They were the 2 divine techniques. Lu Ming was overjoyed as he kept them. He left the scripture depository and went straight to the Divine Vein Tower. After entering the Divine Vein Pagoda, Lu Ming devoted himself to the cultivation of the 2 divine skills. These 2 divine skills were indeed more mysterious than the Han Bing divine formula. The divine power that could be cultivated would also be a level higher. Of course, it was more difficult to cultivate. Lu Ming spent a few months to cultivate the 2 divine fires. However, the divine fires were dimmer and needed time to grow. Time flew by, and Lu Ming stayed in the Divine Vein Tower for 5 years. In 5 years, Lu Ming had finally cultivated the 2 divine fires to the same size as the sovereign divine fires. Moreover, when the 2 divine fires were as big as the sovereign divine fires, Lu Ming had a breakthrough and his cultivation level rose to rank 5 empty god realm. My ability to challenge those who are of a higher rank than me is stronger than before. Lu Ming smiled. Now, when he used the sovereign divine force, the other divine forces would merge with it, and the power would be even more shocking. I've cultivated for so long. Let's go out for a walk. Lu Ming smiled and ended his cultivation. He walked out of the Divine Vein Tower. After such a long time, Lu Ming's points had decreased by almost 2,000 points. Adding the points that he had used to exchange for the royal grade divine skill, Lu Ming was left with about 5,000 points. This is the inner district. I can ask around about you Xin who the ancestor of techniques is looking for. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Back then, the ancestor of techniques had given him a dagger and asked him to bring it to Xin. In the past, Lu Ming was in the outer district and he could not find her. However, now that Lu Ming could enter and leave the inner district freely, he could look for her. Who should I ask? Lu Ming pondered. Suddenly, his eyes glittered as he thought of Yu Linglong. Lu Ming immediately took out his communication jade talisman and sent a message to Yu Linglong. To his surprise, Lu Ming received a reply not long after. Yu Linglong asked him to wait for her outside the Divine Vein Tower. She would be there soon. Soon, a ray of light flew in his direction and a figure landed in front of Lu Ming. Why did you take so long to contact me? Yu Linglong glanced at Lu Ming. Haha, I've been too busy cultivating. I forgot. Lu Ming smiled awkwardly. Why are you looking for me now? Yu Linglong blinked and asked. I want to ask you about someone. I don't know anyone in the inner district, so I'm here to ask you about it. Lu Ming said. I know you're looking for me. Tell me, who do you want to know? It can be said that there's nothing I don't know in the inner sect. You found the right person to ask me about it. Yu Linglong said proudly. I want to know if you know Yu Xian? Lu Ming asked. Yu Xian? Yu Linglong's eyes suddenly widened. She scrutinized Lu Ming and asked curiously, why are you looking for Yu Xian? Could it be that you are her illegitimate son? Towards the end, Yu Linglong's eyes lit up as if she had discovered something new. Lu Ming's forehead was full of black lines. What was this girl thinking about? Please don't make wild guesses. I'm here to look for Yu Xian. Yu Linglong said. Are you sure you're not her illegitimate son? Yu Linglong asked again as if she was not convinced. Lu Ming's eyelids twitched. After a while, he gritted his teeth and said, absolutely not. Oh, then why are you here to look for Yu Xian? Yu Linglong asked again. I'm here to bring something and a message. Lu Ming said. Oh, is the person who asked you to look for Yu Xian's old lover? Yu Linglong blinked. The fire of gossip was burning fiercely. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. This girl was right. However, his expression did not change. He said, I don't know. You've asked so many questions. Do you know who Yu Xian is? Nonsense, of course I know. Yu Xian is my aunt. How can I not know? Yu Linglong pouted. Chapter 2694. Aunt. Lu Ming was dumbfounded. He did not expect that Yu Xian, who the ancestor of techniques was looking for, was Yu Linglong's aunt. That was too much of a coincidence. Is she really your aunt? Lu Ming asked again. He felt that the problem girl was not very reliable. Nonsense, of course she's my aunt. If you don't believe me, I'll bring you to see her now. Yu Linglong pouted and flew in a certain direction with a proud expression. Lu Ming hurriedly followed. In the inner area of Kongxian School, there were several incomparably huge mountain ranges intertwined with each other. There were countless strange peaks that were boundless. After flying for a while, Yu Linglong flew toward a mountain peak. The peak of the mountain was surrounded by clouds and flowers. It was a beautiful sight. From afar, they could see a bamboo forest. In front of the bamboo forest was a lake, and between the bamboo forest and the lake was a building. At that moment, in a pavilion by the lake, a woman was sprinkling some golden grains into the lake. Immediately, golden carps jumped out of the lake and fought for the grains. Aunt! Yu Linglong called out from afar. The woman turned around and revealed her true appearance. What a beautiful woman! Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. The woman looked to be in her 30s, but she still looked as beautiful as ever. She was a rare beauty. Is that Yu Xian? A thought flashed through Lu Ming's mind. It's you, girl. Why are you here today? The woman smiled and said, Auntie, I missed you, didn't I? I'm here to see you. Yu Linglong smiled and said, Do you think I don't know you, girl? Tell me, why are you here? The woman said, It was obvious that this woman was Yu Xian. Aunt, I'm really here to see you. I'm also here to do a small matter. Yu Linglong stuck out her tongue guiltily. Then, she looked at Lu Ming and said, It's him. He said that he's looking for you. Looking for me? Yu Xian looked at Lu Ming curiously. Senior, are you Yu Xian? Lu Ming cupped his fists and said, That's right. I'm Yu Xian. Why are you looking for me? Yu Xian said, Senior, it's like this. I've been entrusted by someone to bring something to you." With that, Lu Ming took out the dagger that was given to him by the ancestor of techniques. At the sight of the dagger that Lu Ming took out, Yu Xian's delicate body trembled. Her gaze was extremely complicated, and she seemed to be reminiscing. After a long while, Yu Xian let out a long sigh and said, "Is the person who gave you the dagger called Fa Ming?" Lu Ming nodded. "What else did he say?" Yu Xian asked again. "He said he—" Lu Ming repeated the words of the ancestor of techniques. Yu Xian's figure trembled even more. Her eyes were filled with tears. After a while, she let out a sigh and said, "He didn't do anything wrong to me. I'm the one who did wrong to him. If you see him next time, tell him the same thing. I'll leave the dagger here. Go." In the end, Yu Xian took the dagger and waved her hand. She then headed to a house in a lonely manner. What's going on? Lu Ming felt that the situation was a little complicated. Lu Ming, what's going on? What's going on? It seems like I'm right. Aunt's old lover is the one who asked you to come. After Yu Xian left, Yu Linglong's eyes were burning with the flames of gossip. She stared at Lu Ming curiously. "Let's go. We'll talk after we leave," Lu Ming said and headed outside. Yu Linglong followed closely behind and asked a bunch of questions. "I finally know. Back then, grandfather asked Aunt to get married, but she didn't seem to be willing. She even caused quite a stir in the end." Yu Linglong said, "Your aunt got married?" Lu Ming was startled. "Yeah, she caused quite a stir back then, but my grandfather suppressed it in the end. But I only heard about it because I wasn't even born back then," Yu Linglong said. No wonder. Lu Ming finally understood why Yu Xian said she was the one who did wrong to the ancestor of techniques. The ancestor of techniques had always missed Yu Xian, but Yu Xian was already married to someone else. Sigh. Lu Ming let out a sigh. He did not know how to tell the ancestor of techniques about it the next time he saw him. That was the reality. That was how helpless the reality was. Shaking his head, Lu Ming put the matter aside. He had already done what he promised the ancestor of techniques. As for the rest, he could not do anything about it. "All right, I have something to ask you. Do you know how to cultivate the Kongxian school's holy grade divine technique?" Lu Ming asked. "You want to cultivate the holy grade divine technique? That's a bit difficult. First, you have to enter the true God realm and become an inner disciple. Then, you have to show your talent and go through a series of tests to prove that you're loyal to the Kongxian school and not a spy sent by other sections. Only then will they teach you," Yu Linglong said. "So difficult?" Lu Ming was speechless. "It's that difficult. You have to know that the entire Kongxian school only has 2 holy grade divine techniques. As the treasure of the school, it's too difficult to learn the complete holy grade divine technique. At most, you can only learn an incomplete one," Yu Linglong said. "An incomplete one? Where can I learn an incomplete one?" Lu Ming's eyes suddenly lit up. He did not need a complete one to cultivate the other divine techniques. An incomplete one was fine too. He only needed to cultivate a strand of divine power. You can exchange it in the scripture pavilion. You just have to ask the elders guarding the scripture pavilion. However, the price is shockingly high. The holy grade divine technique is divided into 12 levels. The first level costs 50,000 points, and the second level costs 100,000 points. The price keeps increasing. The key is that it's not very useful if you don't have a complete one," Yu Linglong said. "I can exchange it." Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He did not need a complete one at all. He only needed the first level. Once he cultivated the first level, he would be able to cultivate a strand of divine power and ignite the divine flame. That was enough for Lu Ming. However, he sighed immediately. The first level required 50,000 points. That price was ridiculously high. Even if he exchanged all the divine gems he had left for points, he would only have slightly more than 10,000 points. It was still far from enough. "Kongxian School, where can I earn points?" Lu Ming asked again. "The place to earn points is, of course, the mission hall. The sect will release a series of missions. As long as you complete the missions, you will be able to earn points. However, I suggest that you don't accept any missions. It's not worth it," Yu Linglong said. "Why?" Lu Ming asked. because there is a limit to the level of missions. You are now an outer disciple, so you can only accept the lowest level missions. Those missions are usually time-consuming and laborious. The rewards are also very low. Most of them only reward 1 or 2 points. The most you can get is 10 points. Yu Linglong said. Lu Ming was instantly speechless. Completing a mission only gave him 1 or 2 points. How long would it take him to earn 50,000 points? Chapter 2695. However, if you want to quickly earn points, there will soon be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Yu Linglong suddenly smiled. What opportunity? Lu Ming asked. The Nether Dragon's secret realm will open in a few days. As long as you enter the Nether Dragon's secret realm and obtain some treasures, you will be able to exchange them for a large amount of points. Yu Linglong said. Nether Dragon's secret realm? Lu Ming was curious as this was the first time he had heard of it. That's right. The Nether Dragon's secret realm only opens once every 100,000 years. Moreover, only those below the true God realm can enter. Thus, it is a paradise for outer disciples. At that time, all the powerful outer disciples will be able to enter. In the Nether Dragon's secret realm, there are 2 main treasures. One is the Nether Dragon Beast, and the other is the Dragon Bone Flower. As long as you obtain the beast core of the Nether Dragon Beast or the Dragon Bone of the Dragon Bone Flower, you will be able to exchange them for a large amount of points. In the past, 1 beast core or Dragon Bone of the Dragon Bone Flower could be exchanged for 100 points. Yu Linglong said. 100 points. Lu Ming was shocked. 100 points could be exchanged for 1 million divine gems. This price was extremely shocking. If he could obtain 100 beast cores or 100 Dragon Bone of the Dragon Bone Flower, he would be able to obtain 10,000 points. If it was 500, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. If that was the case, he would be able to exchange for the first level of the Saint Grade Divine Technique. Yes, the reward is too shocking. Even many inner disciples are envious, but they can't enter. Let me tell you, there are many outer disciples on the empty God list who could have broken through to the true God realm long ago. However, they have been suppressing their cultivation in order to wait for the Nether Dragon's secret realm that opens once every 100,000 years. This is a good opportunity to earn a lot. How about it? It will open in 3 days. Do you want to go together? Yu Linglong said. Of course, I'm going. Lu Ming said. He would be a fool if he didn't go. Then let's wait a few days. We'll go in a few days, Yu Linglong said. Then they went to the Divine Vein Tower and cultivated for a few days. 3 days later, Lu Ming and Yu Linglong flew out of the inner area and headed for the outer area. The entrance to the Nether Dragon's secret realm was in a huge palace in the outer sect area. This hall was normally closed and would only be opened when the Nether Dragon's secret realm was about to open. In these few days, Lu Ming had a better understanding of the Nether Dragon's secret realm. The great desolate universe was vast and boundless. It was the most perfect and stable world in the Great Thousand Realms. Around it, some small kiliocosms would evolve, such as the Heaven Realm and the Primordial Realm. At the same time, some mystic realms would also evolve. These arcane realms were of a higher level than many minor kiliocosms, and were tightly attached to the Your Wilds universe. For the creatures in the minor kiliocosm, reaching the demigod realm was the limit. If they wanted to advance further, they would have to enter the primitive universe. However, in some secret realms, deities or even stronger beings could be born. The Nether Dragon's secret realm was such a secret realm. When Lu Ming and Yu Linglong arrived, they found that there was already a sea of people outside the palace. Countless outer disciples began to gather at the scene. It's Lu Ming. Many people recognized Lu Ming as soon as Lu Ming arrived. Back then, Lu Ming had become famous after defeating 3 geniuses of the Empty God ranking. His name had already spread throughout the outer sect. This brat also wants to enter the Nether Dragon's secret realm. Fine, I'll get rid of him inside. Some people harumphed coldly in their hearts as their gazes were like lightning. Furthermore, there were many people with such thoughts. Shwa, shwa. At this moment, several white-haired elders flew over and landed in front of the palace. The inner elders are here. The door is about to open. Many people became excited. Many people's cultivation could have broken through to the true God realm, but they had suppressed it to the peak empty God realm. They were waiting for the Nether Dragon secret realm to open so that they could gain some benefits. There was a total of 3 inner sect elders who landed in front of the palace door. Then, they struck out with their palms and 3 streams of divine power slammed into the palace door. Rumble. The palace's great doors shone, and rumbling noises could be heard as they slowly opened. However, there was still a light barrier above the door. In the Nether Dragon secret realm, the Nether Dragon Beast and the Dragon Bone Flower are both very powerful. Those with weak cultivation and insufficient battle power will not only not be able to obtain beast cores and dragon bones, but will also die. Therefore, only those who can break through this light barrier can enter the Nether Dragon secret realm. Now, you can go. Remember, you only have 3 months. After 3 months, you must return here or else you will be locked inside. An inner elder announced, "Let's go." Instantly, a group of outer disciples charged towards the door. The door was 100 meters tall and dozens of meters wide. It could easily allow 100 people to pass through. Boom, boom. The group of outer disciples all sent out powerful attacks that landed on the barrier, causing it to violently tremble. However, the majority of them were blocked. Only a few managed to break through the barrier and enter, disappearing in a flash. "Damn it, I don't believe it. Break for me." Someone roared and used his strongest power, but he still couldn't break through the barrier. "Trash, don't block the way." Behind him, other people charged over and sent out their divine power, wanting to push the person in front away. "You're the trash." The person in front was furious and attacked, but after exchanging a single blow with the person behind him, he spat out a mouthful of blood and crashed into the barrier, his face pale. Dongfeng Hao. That person's face was pale, and the person behind him was Dongfeng Hao.
"Trash scram."
Dongfeng Hao disdainfully shouted and sent out a palm, breaking through the barrier and entering the palace. "Those who can't break through the barrier, get out of the way. Don't block the way." An inner elder's voice sounded. He waved his hand, sending out waves of energy that sent those who couldn't break through the barrier flying. Shwa, shwa. People continued to dash forward, breaking through the barrier and entering the palace. Those who have the strength of a level 9 empty god realm martial artist can break through the barrier. At this point, Lu Ming had already seen through the trick. As long as one had the strength of a level 9 empty god realm martial artist, they would be able to break through the barrier. Those who didn't have the strength of a level 9 empty god realm martial artist would not be able to break through the barrier. "Lu Ming, let's go in quickly." Yu Linglong shouted and flew forward. Lu Ming also flew forward and arrived before the barrier. Yu Linglong sent out a palm, causing the barrier to collapse like water. In a flash, she entered the barrier. Lu Ming also sent out a punch, breaking through the barrier and entering the palace. Inside the palace, there was a huge empty palace. In the middle of the palace, there was a huge black whirlpool. This was the entrance to the Nether Dragon secret domain. The two of them charged into the whirlpool in a flash. After a moment of dizziness, Lu Ming discovered that he had appeared on a piece of yellow land with Yu Linglong by his side. "Let's go and find the Nether Dragon Beast and Dragon Bone Flower. 3 months will pass in the blink of an eye," Yu Linglong said. The two of them turned into rays of light and flew into the distance. Chapter 2696. The Nether Dragon Mystery Domain was vast and boundless. Lu Ming didn't know how big it was, but he felt that it was at least bigger than the Heaven Domain, Yuan Domain, and Evil God Domain combined. The two flew for a few hours, but they didn't see anything. What entered their eyes was a vast expanse of yellow land. "We're too unlucky. When we entered, we were sent to this piece of yellow land. This piece of yellow land is barren, and there are no nether dragons or dragon bone flowers," Yu Linglong said bitterly. Lu Ming was also a little depressed, but there was nothing he could do about it. He could only focus on his journey. After flying for another 2 hours, mountains gradually appeared in front of them. Roar, roar, roar. A series of roars could be heard coming from the mountains. "It's the Nether Dragons." Yu Linglong's eyes lit up. The two increased their speed and flew towards the mountains. But at this time, other rays of light appeared from other directions and also flew towards the mountains. They were the other outer sect disciples. Lu Ming looked around and saw more than 10 people. Let's increase our speed. Yu Linglong shouted as she circulated her divine power, and a layer of rainbow light covered her body. Boom! At this time, several powerful auras came from the sky. The pressure was like a tide that pressed down in all directions, covering Lu Ming and the other outer sect disciples. It was extremely domineering. Then, 2 youths, one male and one female, descended and blocked the group. The nether dragons in this area belong to the 2 of us. You guys can leave. The male said coldly as he glanced at Lu Ming and the others. His eyes were filled with arrogance. Moreover, his tone was filled with a strong threat. It was as if he said that and the others had to follow. It's Lu Yong, ranked 35th on the empty god list, and Fangya, ranked 37th. Someone exclaimed as they recognized the 2. Why are we so unlucky to meet the 2 of them? It looks like we can only leave. The other outer sect disciples had ugly expressions, but they were also filled with helplessness. Those who could enter the Nether Dragon Mystery Domain all had battle power of the 9th level of the Void God Realm. However, he only had the combat strength of a level 9 empty god. He was far from being comparable to those geniuses on the empty god list. This was especially true for the top 50 geniuses on the virtual god list. Each of them had astonishing combat power and could survive the attack of a level 1 true god expert. It was said that the top 30 geniuses could even contend with a first-level true god existence. Although Lu Yong and Fangya were only ranked 35th and 37th respectively, the 2 of them were lovers. They specialized in joint attacks, and when the 2 of them joined forces, they could fight against the top 30 geniuses. Ordinary 9th-level ethereal god realm experts were far weaker than them. Although the other 10 or so outer disciples were unwilling, they slowly backed away. However, Lu Ming and Yu Linglong did not back down. Why aren't you leaving yet? Lu Yong looked at Lu Ming and Yu Linglong with a cold glint in his eyes. Retreat? Why should we retreat? Since we've encountered a nether dragon, the nether dragon core will depend on our own abilities. Lu Ming said indifferently. Brat, you're very confident. Lu Yang's eyes became colder as he said, the nether dragon's secret domain is no longer within the sect. Killing is not prohibited here. Do you understand? This was a blatant threat. His meaning was clear. If Lu Ming did not retreat, then he could stay here forever. You talk too much nonsense. Either scram or attack. Lu Ming stepped forward and scolded. He was too lazy to talk nonsense with Lu Yong. He did not have much time. A piece of nether dragon beast core or a piece of dragon bone flowers dragon bone was worth points and money. If Lu Ming wanted to exchange for a sacred grade technique, he would have to rely on these few months. He did not have the time to argue with the other party. You're courting death. Lu Yong snorted coldly. His finger was like a sword as he pointed at Lu Ming. A sword gleam burst forth from his finger. It was incomparably sharp and emitted a terrifying whistle as it charged towards Lu Ming. Boom! Lu Ming threw out a punch, his divine force surging as it struck Lu Yang's finger. Crack! Lu Yang's finger was broken and twisted like a fried dough twist. His face turned the color of pig liver as he screamed in agony and staggered backward, spurting out a mouthful of blood. What? The rest of the outer disciples who had already retreated opened their mouths wide in shock upon seeing this. After a single exchange, Lu Yong was no match for Qin Nan. I recognize him. He's Lu Ming. He's Lu Ming. Someone yelled. What? He's Lu Ming? The Lu Ming who defeated Dongfang Hao, Huang Qinggan, and the Scorpion Tiger? That's right, it's him. Terrifying. His strength has grown again after a few years. The others exclaimed. You're Lu Ming. Lu Yang's expression was hideous as he stared at Lu Ming. Scram. Lu Ming shouted coldly. Fine, I would like to see what you're capable of. Fangya, let's work together. Lu Yong shouted. All right. Fangya's figure flickered and arrived beside Lu Yong. Clang, clang. 2 sounds of swords chiming could be heard. Lu Yong and Fangya unsheathed their swords. 2 rays of sword gleams soared into the sky. Then, The two rays of sword gleams intertwined and charged toward Lu Ming. The sword momentum was continuous and its power was shocking. Both of them went all out, and their strength was much stronger than the scorpion tiger. However, Lu Ming's strength was no longer the same as it was in the past. In the past few years, he had cultivated 3 different royal-grade divine skills and 3 divine fires. His divine force was much stronger than before. In addition, his cultivation had broken through to the 5th level of the empty god realm. His strength was much stronger than when he fought the scorpion tiger and the others. Buzz. Lu Ming took out his spear and swept it out. The spear did not display the destructive 3 strikes. What was used was merely an incomplete divine skill. The spear ray and sword ray collided with each other, and an intense battle ensued. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of the collision was like a thunderclap. After more than 10 collisions, Lu Yang and Feng Ye retreated 1,000 meters before they stopped. Both of their faces were ghastly pale and blood was seeping out from the corners of their mouths. There was a hole in their bodies that was penetrated from the front and back. It was obvious that they had been pierced by Lu Ming's long spear. "I'll let you off this time. Get lost." Lu Ming shouted coldly. Lu Yang and Feng Ye's faces were ugly, but there was deep fear in their eyes. They knew that they were no match for Lu Ming. "Let's go." The two of them turned into 2 rays of light and left. So strong. Lu Ming is so strong. Lu Yang and Feng Ye are no match for him, even when they join forces. It's only been 5 to 6 years, and his strength has increased tremendously. His current combat strength is probably in the top 30 of the empty god realm. No, he might even be in the top 20. The outer disciples who witnessed the battle between Lu Ming and Lu Yang and Feng Ye were shocked. "Do you guys want to stay here and compete with me?" At that moment, Lu Ming's gaze swept across the outer disciples. The outer disciples' faces changed. What a joke. Competing with Lu Ming was the same as seeking death. Immediately, all of them flew away with their tails between their legs. Chapter 2697. Lu Ming, I didn't expect you to be so strong. Yu Linglong looked at Lu Ming with shock written all over her face. Although she knew that Lu Ming wasn't weak, she didn't expect him to be so strong. "Let's go and hunt the netherworld dragons." Lu Ming smiled and flew towards the mountain peaks. Roar, roar. When Lu Ming and Yu Linglong neared the mountain peaks, a few netherworld dragons appeared on the mountain peaks. The netherworld dragons looked like tigers. They were 5 meters tall and 10 meters long. Their bodies were covered in black scales, and there were 2 dragon horns on their heads. Their auras were wild. Roar, roar. The few netherworld dragons roared and kicked off with their hind legs. They turned into a few streaks of black light and charged towards Lu Ming and Yu Linglong. So fast, Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He shook his spear and stabbed out a few times. A few spear radiances pierced through the heads of the 3 netherworld dragons. Ding, ding. When the spear pierced the heads of the netherworld dragons, there was the sound of metal clashing and sparks flew. The 3 netherworld dragons were forced back by Lu Ming's attacks. However, Lu Ming also felt a huge force surging through the spear, causing his arm to feel numb. What shocking strength! Lu Ming was slightly shocked. He could feel that the few netherworld dragons were at level 9 empty god realm, but their strength was shocking. With Lu Ming's current strength, there weren't many empty gods who could cause his arm to feel numb. What shocked Lu Ming even more was that after the 3 netherworld dragons were forced back, they shook their heads and were completely fine. Shocking defensive strength. If it were any other level 9 empty god realm wild beast, they would definitely die on the spot after being pierced by Lu Ming's spear. Roar, roar, roar. The 3 netherworld dragons roared, following which, a few more netherworld dragons appeared between the mountain peaks. They were filled with killing intent as they charged towards them. Kill. Lu Ming also charged forward, circulating his sovereign's god force with all his might. The 4 divine fires in his body burned fiercely, and 3 types of king-grade god force merged with his sovereign's god force, bursting forth with shocking might. The nether dragon roared. Its razor-sharp claws clawed at Lu Ming. The wind howled, terrifying to the extreme. Bang, bang, bang. The two sides continued to clash, but Lu Ming was still stronger. His spear struck the three nether dragons, and 15 layers of power exploded, sending the three nether dragons flying. However, after the nether dragon was sent flying, it shook its head and body as if nothing had happened. This strength. Lu Ming was extremely shocked. The nether dragon's strength completely exceeded his expectations. No wonder the inner sect elders said that the nether dragon core dragonbone flower was very powerful. Only those who could break through the light screen could enter. Lu Ming was sure that even a rank 9 empty god realm expert wouldn't be a match for a nether dragon. If they wanted to kill a nether dragon, they would need at least a few people to work together. On the other side, Yu Linglong was also fighting with a few nether dragons. A soft whip appeared in Yu Linglong's hand. As she waved the whip, the sky was filled with whip shadows, trapping the nether dragons in the middle. What strength! Yu Linglong's strength had also exceeded Lu Ming's expectations. Yu Linglong's cultivation was at the rank 9 empty god realm, but Lu Ming felt that Yu Linglong wasn't weak compared to many of the top geniuses of the empty god realm. However, Yu Linglong's identity wasn't ordinary. She wasn't an outer sect disciple, but an inner sect disciple. There were many examples like this in the Kongxian school. Many descendants of great figures were directly nurtured in the inner sect and wouldn't join the ranks of outer sect disciples. Naturally, they wouldn't enter the empty god realm, but their strength was very shocking. Roar! Roar! The nether dragon was continuously sent flying by Lu Ming. It let out a furious roar, and a baleful aura filled the sky. Its body was covered in a layer of black flames as it glared at Lu Ming and charged at Lu Ming. Boom! 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 The two sides once again engaged in an intense battle. However, the nether dragon's defense was too shocking. It was continuously hit by Lu Ming, but it was as if nothing had happened. Lu Ming couldn't break through its defense at all. Lu Ming's strength could completely suppress a few nether dragons, but he couldn't break through their defense and kill them. No, there must be a weakness. As long as I can find the weakness of the nether dragon, I can kill it. Lu Ming's mind was racing. If there weren't any weaknesses, then how did the people who entered 100,000 and 200,000 years ago kill it? If even Lu Ming couldn't kill it, then there weren't many people below the true god realm who could. After thinking about this, Lu Ming began to probe. The long spear constantly stabbed at different parts of the nether dragon. Finally, after hundreds of probing, Lu Ming finally found the weakness of the nether dragon. Puff! Lu Ming's spear pierced the nether dragon's neck. The nether dragon roared as blood flowed out. It then fell to the ground and twitched a few times before losing its vitality. The neck was the nether dragon's weakness. Yu Linglong, attack its neck! Lu Ming shouted. Whoosh! Whoosh! Yu Linglong's attack changed. The soft whip hardened and stabbed out like a long spear. Puff! The soft whip pierced a nether dragon's neck and killed it. It's the neck. Yu Linglong was excited and began to attack crazily. At the same time, Lu Ming also attacked. Although the nether dragons tried to dodge, they couldn't and were killed by Lu Ming. On the other side, Yu Linglong also killed the last two nether dragons. Then, the two dug out a few beast cores from the nether dragon's chests. There were a total of 6 beast cores, 3 for each person. These beast cores could be used to refine divine pills and were very useful. They were even helpful to true gods and heavenly gods. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so expensive. Lu Ming was delighted. 1 beast core was worth 100 points, which was equivalent to 1 million divine gems. Let's continue. Lu Ming's eyes were burning as he flew forward with Yu Linglong. Roar! Roar! They hadn't flown far when roars came from the front. There were at least a dozen nether dragons leaping from the mountain and running towards them. We didn't go looking for you, but you came to us yourself. Just in time. Lu Ming laughed and charged at the dozen nether dragons. The nether dragon was very powerful and had shocking strength. However, since Lu Ming knew its weakness, given his combat ability, it was not too difficult to deal with it. Lu Ming and Yu Linglong worked together and killed the dozen nether dragons. Each of them obtained 7 beast cores. Adding the 3 from before, they had 10 now. If exchanged for points, it would be 1,000 points. 1,000 points could be exchanged for a slightly inferior king-grade divine art. This speed of earning points made Lu Ming very happy. Of course, this was also because they were strong enough to kill the nether dragons. If it were others, they wouldn't be so fast. Even if an outer sect disciple at the 9th level of the ethereal god realm knew the weakness of the nether dragon, they would still need many people to work together to kill it. If they encountered a dozen nether dragons at once, they wouldn't be able to deal with them and could only run away. Chapter 2698. In just a short while, he had obtained the beast core of 1,000 points. Lu Ming was excited and wanted to continue forward with Yu Linglong to kill more netherworld dragons. Boom! Suddenly, a powerful pressure came down from the sky. It was filled with a domineering aura. Then, a few young men slowly descended from the sky. Dong Feng Hao. Lu Ming squinted his eyes. There were 3 youths, and one of them was Huang Qinggan, who was ranked 98th on the empty god list back then. Of course, Lu Ming had defeated 3 people in a row and defeated the 51st ranked Scorpion Tiger. Huang Qinggan's ranking had dropped to 99th. Lu Ming was not concerned about Huang Qinggan but the other 2 youths, especially a youth in black armor. This youth in black armor was tall and muscular. Black armor covered his entire body and even his palms were covered by the armor. Only his head was exposed, and he was filled with a domineering aura. Quang Dao, its little tyrant Quang Dao. Yu Linglong exclaimed when she saw the youth in black armor. It's him. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. In this period of time, he had some understanding of some of the top people on the empty god list. Little tyrant Quang Dao was ranked 5th on the empty god list. He was a terrifying figure and very powerful. In the entire outer sect, there were only a handful of outer sect disciples who could suppress him. Those in the top 10 of the empty god list all had shocking battle records and had defeated true gods before. This was terrifying. Like the Scorpion Tiger, it had only escaped from the hands of a true god realm expert before. It was completely different from being defeated. The difference was like heaven and earth. It was said that the top 3 on the empty god list had the strength to kill a true god realm expert. Little Tyrant Quang Dao was undoubtedly more terrifying. Although Little Tyrant Quang Dao did not have the strength to kill a true God Realm expert, he had defeated many true God Realm experts, and his combat strength was unquestionable. You are Lu Ming, the one who killed many of my floating light sect's junior brothers? Quang Dao's eyes were like a ferocious beast as he stared at Lu Ming with cold, murderous intent. If people don't provoke me, I won't provoke them. If people provoke me, no matter who they are, I'll kill them all. Lu Ming replied coldly. Hee, is that so? Kill them all? Let's see if you have the ability. Crazy Dao's face turned even colder. The aura on his body suddenly burst out. The violent pressure was like a mountain, pressing down on Lu Ming. Whoosh, whoosh. Huang Qinggan and the other young man moved in a flash and formed a triangle, surrounding Lu Ming and Yu Linglong in the middle to prevent them from escaping. Lu Ming, I wasn't there when you fought so many people in the life and death arena. Otherwise, I wouldn't have allowed you to be so arrogant. His name was Lan Shang, and he was also an expert on the empty god list. He was ranked 33rd on the empty god list. You talk too much. Don't you know that villains usually die from talking too much? Lu Ming coldly glanced at Lan Shang. You're courting death. Senior brother Quang Dao, leave this brat to me. Lan Shang's eyes were cold as a war blade appeared in his hand. Unfortunately, they did not know that Lu Ming had already defeated Lu Yang and Feng Ye. Although Lu Yang and Feng Ye were ranked lower than Lan Shang on the empty god list, their combined strength was definitely above Lan Shang's. If he knew about it, he would not be so confident. Sky Blade 10 slashes. Lan Shang shouted coldly. Blade Chi soared into the sky. A blue blade radiance was crystal clear and filled with terrifying power as it slashed towards Lu Ming. Buzz. Lu Ming's long spear shook as he lashed it out. Rumble. The long spear lashed out, and there was a violent explosion. Then, the long spear struck Lan Shang's blade radiance. Break it! Lan Shang began to roar, wanting to break Lu Ming's spear radiance. However, in the next moment, his eyes widened and he let out a miserable shriek. Not only did he fail to break Lu Ming's spear radiance, but his own blade radiance also shattered. The long spear was like a hot knife through butter as it struck Lan Shang's body. Lan Shang screamed as his body flew out like a cannonball. He brought along a long stream of air as he crashed into a mountain. The mountain crumbled and Lan Shang's body was lying on a pile of rocks. His body was twitching nonstop and he was already half dead. What? Huang Chang'an's eyes widened as he was almost scared to death. His body instinctively retreated. Even the eyes of the little tyrant, Huang Dao, narrowed. Obviously, Lu Ming's combat strength had exceeded his expectations. Although Lan Shang's combat strength was far from his, he was already a top expert in the empty god realm. However, he was now half dead after being struck by Lu Ming's spear. So you do have some strength. No wonder you're so arrogant. However, this strength is not enough in my hands. Huang Dao opened his mouth and his divine force exploded. His tall figure looked even more mighty. Boom! Huang Dao stepped out. His body was like a mountain as he pressed down on Lu Ming. Let me see how strong you are. Overbearing divine fist. Huang Dao roared. The black armor on his body emitted a bright black light as he threw a punch at Lu Ming. His fist was wrapped in black armor. When he threw a punch, it was like a mountain pressing down on Lu Ming. Lu Ming was not afraid as he circulated his divine force. In his elixir field, 4 divine fires burned. Divine force gushed out and entered the long spear as he threw out a spear. Boom! Like 2 meteorites exploding, the sky shook violently and formed a terrifying shockwave that rushed out in all directions. Swoosh! A figure retreated a few dozen miles and stood in the air. His aura fluctuated. This figure was Huang Dao. How can this be? Huang Chang'an was shocked to the core. Lu Ming's combat strength was shocking. Even Huang Dao, who was ranked 5th on the empty god list, was pushed back by Lu Ming. Kid, not bad. Your strength is not bad. Take another blow from me. Overbearing divine fist. Fist of the world. Huang Dao roared as the aura on his body became more terrifying. He threw out a punch, and the fist force was like a meteorite as it flew towards Lu Ming. The terrifying fist force continued to press toward Lu Ming even though it was still a distance away. Peak of Level 2 Divine Skill. Lu Ming saw the level of Huang Dao's divine skill at a glance. Huang Dao's divine power was definitely at the top of the King-grade divine power, very close to the Saint-grade divine power. His divine skill had been cultivated to the peak of the 2nd level. In addition to his black armor, the combination of his divine power was shockingly strong. Even someone like Lan Shang would be killed with a single punch from this punch. First move of the 3 annihilating strikes, sky-piercing. Lu Ming used the first move of the 3 annihilating strikes. Although the 3 annihilating strikes was only at the peak of level 1, the power of the 3 annihilating strikes was already strong. With the support of the battle word secret art, the power was not weak at all. Swoosh! A meteor-like spear radiance shot out and collided with Huang Dao's fist force. Rumble! An even more terrifying explosion occurred as the violent force swept out in all directions. Not good. Huang Chang'an's face changed as he retreated. Otherwise, he would be injured by the force. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.